people would look at me like I had 5 heads back in the day. 20 years ago, I was saying, it's about the balance of mind, body, and spirit, mind, body, and soul. And nobody got it back then. But now everyone understands that phrase and talking about that. I was feeling like I needed to touch people in a different way. I just was feeling the pull, the calling. And then I discovered breathwork, which is, after this beautiful 20-year career in fitness.
Wow, so exciting. We're big believers in breathwork because we learnt this on our journey. When we had our awakening, we did plant medicine ayahuasca. We went straight to Mother Ayahuasca. I don't know if that...
Hi guys, in this elevated conversation, we speak with Rebecca Kordecki, personal trainer to the stars, fitness model and expert who moved into helping her clients more with healing their heart, their soul, clearing their traumas and their blocks, all through the modality of breath work and the amazing way the breath can be used in so many different situations in life to create change. I had no idea that breath work was so versatile. So let's explore this elevator conversation with Rebecca Kordecki. Rebecca, welcome to Elevated Conversations.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
I had a big smile when I was reading your bio, when I read about you are the creator of the booty slide. And I thought, wow, because one of the things my son and I loved when we were recently in LA was watching Shark Tank. And I thought, I wonder if she went on Shark Tank.
That's a great question. I will answer that. I'm going to put a pin in that. That's a good question.
And how did you go? Well, so you started off helping people, let's just call it with the physical vessel, right? Getting fit, looking good, celebrity trainer. Did you enjoy that time in your life?
I did. Look, I look back on my journey, which is about close to 30 years in the wellness space now, right? And since I'm 60, right? So do the math, right? I've been at it for a minute, but, 60, well, thank you. But
I would never this. That's good.
But the reason why I share it a lot lately is because I'm like, how did I do it? Well, I did it by paying attention to my health and fitness for 30 years straight, consistently, right? And so to your question though, and I'll get into that as we speak, but this career gave me so much. I mean, I loved working with clients in the training aspect. Then I actually was a massage therapist for years. And that was my entree into wanting to help people from the outside in, right? From the outside, from the body, making their bodies feel better with massage, helping them get 6-pack abs, and all of that was amazing. But on my journey, I always kept feeling like there's more to this puzzle, right? There's more to it. It's not just the physical, it's mind, body, and soul. And I always was talking about that. People would look at me like I had 5 heads back in the day. 20 years ago, I was saying, it's about the balance of mind, body, and spirit, mind, body, and soul. And nobody got it back then. But now everyone understands that phrase and talking about that. And so in the last 10 years, while I was feeling like I needed to touch people in a different way, I just was feeling the pull, the calling. And then I discovered breathwork, which is, after this beautiful 20-year career in fitness, I landed in breathwork. I discovered it, randomly and then, but I'll let you guys ask me some questions about that. But yeah, so then I transitioned into that. And now there's another iteration, which I'll also share about, but yeah.
Wow, so exciting. I mean, that's a really opening kind of entry into awakening, isn't it? Slowly but surely you would have come to terms with, what was actually happening. You're focused on the body and the diet, obviously, and the physique. And by the way, I probably need some help getting a 6-pack as well. If you have any tips.
We can talk about that offline. I got you. I got you.
But, it's like the deepening as the consciousness grew on the planet, you're moving into that inner temple and the awareness of the emotional body, which is the breath.
Yes.
So we're big believers in breath work because we learnt this on our journey. When we had our awakening, we did plant medicine ayahuasca. We went straight to Mother Ayahuasca. I don't know if that
that's the fast track.
Oh, yeah.
got in the slingshot and went straight up there.
Yeah.
But then through that process, we learned breath work and how powerful it was, and that release of that DMT. So can you talk us and the audience through the release of that process so we can understand what we're tapping into when we do breath work?
Yeah, no, and I always say, to be clear and to be fair to the modality and the magic of it, I believe that, well, there's many kinds of breath work, right? I always talk about the umbrella of breath work, which is, just breath work in general, the breath we breathe every day. But then there's different styles that you can do and different subcategories under that. So I always talk about there's conscious circular breathing, which is the style you guys probably did and are very familiar with. So that's one category. And then the other bigger category is what I call breath prescriptives or breath exercises, which are very short duration. They're for a desired outcome. Like if someone's sleepy, there's the 4-7-8 breath. I mean, you can't sleep. It's 4-7-8 to get tired and get ready for bed. If you're having anxiety, you might do box breathing. And these are like 3 to 5 minutes of a protocol. And the box breathing or the 4-7-8 or alternate nostril breathing. And all of those have this outcome that usually, if you do it exactly to the protocol, you'll get the desired outcome. Whereas conscious circular breathing, completely different, because you never know what you're going to fucking get, right? So every time you do this kind of breath work, you might go to Mother Ayahuasca feeling like where you're feeling like, holy shit, I'm tripping. Sorry if I don't know if I was supposed to swear on this one, but I use those words. You probably beat me out. But you also might just have a soft, gentle experience or release with that kind of breath work. But the thing I always say about conscious circular style, where the release of the DMT and we're releasing big emotions and big feelings, is that no matter what, as long as you drop in, let it go, and let it flow, the breath, you will always get up feeling lighter and freer. And I think that is our goal. Like the first thing I say to people who come to my class is like, I don't think you came to breathe tonight. Usually people come to feel. And so if you just trust the breath, you will always get that result. Then if you get like this big, aha, the sky's parted, that's a bonus, right? And so the beautiful thing about the breath that I teach is that it's available to us anytime, anywhere. Right? Like with ayahuasca, beautiful, but you got to travel somewhere, you got to get on a plane often, you got to pay for the shaman, you got to, and by the way, when you're on that ride, you can't get off if you're not liking it. Whereas with breath work, you close your mouth, you change your breathing pattern, you're good, right? So that's how I like to compare the two. They're both magical, right? And for different reasons, for different people, we'll choose one or the other, or both. But it's important to understand that with ayahuasca, that's one thing, and you really have no control over that. But with the breath, you actually can control the journey by moderating and modulating the breath pattern. So just to have a distinction there about that too.
Yeah, I love that you've been able to come up with little protocols that people can use. Like for instance, insomnia, for example, like that's a huge issue. One of the biggest searched items on the internet is actually people trying to get off to sleep in and around weight loss, but it's like right up there. So
it's right up there,
like quickly, how does the breath affect our ability to go off to sleep? Is it just slowing down the brain rhythms, or is it more than that?
Yeah. Well, it's that, but also just to be fair to and respectful of the people who created those. I didn't create those breath protocols, right? Like, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what you said like that. I created. I didn't do it. But like Dr. Wheel is responsible for the 4-7-8 breath. And I don't know where the box breathing originated or some of the other ones. But I didn't create those. But what I did was once I learned, I was like, I don't want to be a one-trick pony and only know one style of teaching. So I'm going to learn everything about breath and all the ways I could help someone if they come to me and they say, hey, I can't sleep. You got something for me? I don't want to say, well, no, you got to do conscious circular breathing, which, by the way, will probably keep you up all night after you do a trip, right? After you've had an experience, you're usually high from it. You're feeling good. The last thing you're going to do is sleep. So I wanted to understand all the ways that we can impact people with breath. So, when we're doing the breath like a 4-7-8 or box breathing, what we're doing is we're tapping into both sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems and the vagus nerve, right? So, which is responsible for helping us calm. And so the breath pattern and the style and the rhythm and the pace and the depth of the breath all impact the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we tap into that, that's how we can calm and rest and relax, or rest and reset, as opposed to anxiety, like stress, flight, which is sympathetic nervous system, which also gets impacted by the breath, but it's like a dance, right? With sometimes we're on the in breath, it can be sympathetic nervous system, and on the out breath, it might be imparting to the parasympathetic. So it just depends on the style and the rhythm, like I said, and the depth and the flow and all of that. But what we're trying to do when we breathe in those, like the 4, 7, 8, is really slow everything down, is regulate. Now there is a breath, that breath of fire. You guys have maybe heard of that one. And that is specifically for speeding you up. That's for giving you energy. So say you have a big presentation to do, or you're halfway through your workday and you're just dragging ass and you're like, I need some energy. You do the breath of fire and that stimulates you, activates you. So depending on what you need, you know, there's a whole array of those breath exercises. My favorite though.
I think the fire breath sounds amazing, because a lot of people have that lag at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they're grabbing the sugar or, the chocolate bar, or, the drink. We noticed in America, everyone walks around with a drink, a bought drink of some description. And, for us, we're just very simple. It's like a coffee in the morning and some water, and then we're good, a cup of tea maybe in the afternoon. But so what is the fire breath? Because I don't actually, do you know what it is? Is it just getting all charged up?
It's the one, if you're familiar, Tony Robbins, but if you're familiar with some of his like priming in the morning routine that he does, he always demonstrates it. And even in his like Unleash the Power Within, all of his journeys that he takes people on, that's the breath they use often. And it's an in and out through the nose. And it's kind of weird to show on camera, because if you haven't blown your nose, you might blow snot. So I'm not gonna show it. But if anyone is watching and you're like, I want to know that breath, just go to your best friend, YouTube or Google, and it will tell you exactly how to do it. It's a very fast breath, and it's in and out, like I said, through the nose and the mouth, and it's a whole lot of that, and the belly expanding, and really fast to stimulate you. And it works. And as soon as you do it, like you do 30 cycles, like 30 breath patterns, you are lightheaded. You feel, immediately you feel it, which is really cool. Like, by the way, the one thing about breath is that it is the only system in our body that is involuntary, meaning it's going on all the time without us even having to do anything. Hopefully, if we're still alive, we're breathing. But it is the only one that we can voluntarily mess with, right? Like we can't impact I can't tell my cells or my blood to change, but by things I do, I can affect it, but I can't purposely go, I'm going to slow the way my blood is moving through my veins or vessels. But I can tell the breath by choosing how to, and I always say, manipulate the breath in a certain way on purpose for this desired outcome. So it's voluntarily and then involuntarily operating. And so we can actually take control over it, which is kind of cool as far as all the systems in our body go. So that was a fun fact I loved when I first learned it.
I love that. And I love how your journey kind of evolved, right? Because, eventually you went into, let's call it the physical vessel first, teaching people to maximize their physical vessel to make it look amazing. And then you went to this next level of realizing how you could bring in the breath to help to master the state of mind, the emotional body, etc. But then this journey for you went into how this breath tool can help the soul. So let's talk now about how repressed trauma or patterns or issues or things that we're choosing to avoid can sometimes be brought to the surface through the healing power of the breath. Let's go there.
Yeah, I love that. And, again, just as a disclaimer, as I'm not a therapist, I'm not licensed, I am a breath certified coach. And so just to be fair to the audience, anything you hear, anything you're interested in, please, do your due diligence, check with your therapist or medical professionals, right? So all I'm sharing.
We're living in a day where you've got to say, I don't have a license to teach you to breathe.
Yeah, no, and to also the statements I'm about to make, right? Just as a fair disclaimer that we live in this, but I want to always be careful because I know people sometimes can consume information and they're like, well, Rebecca said, or they said on their show, right? Just to protect us all. That so anything you hear, take it, to heart, but then also make sure it resonates and then check the facts of what feels right for you. So what I always say about breath, and this is from my own experience and also working with we used to be like 11,000 students. I think I'm at 12,000 students of over the course of 10 years working with, well, thank you. But it's been a really amazing journey. Why that number is important to me is it proves to me when I see a pattern over and over and over and over and over that, hey, because I got a lot of data, right? Now I can say, this is actually what happens. This is what I experience from the very first student till the 12,000th student, right? So what we see is that when people start breathing this way, that the first thing that usually happens is, I always say, you might get more anxious before you get less anxious. You might get more heightened before you get calmer. But that's part of this cycle of the breathing that we're going through. And what we're doing, and look, I don't really completely fully know why this particular breath pattern is so magical. We're releasing the DMT. Yeah, it's stirring up all this stuff, but there's no proof of why certain people have these big emotional releases. But what I believe, and this is my opinion, is that because we're finally getting out of here long enough to just chill, and hopefully with the right facilitator, the right teacher, there's the right music, there's the right things being said, and the great container has been created, that we finally feel safe enough, loved enough, quiet and calm enough in that environment, and with that breath flowing through us, which is life and wisdom and patience and kindness and all the things, that we finally can say, wait a second, here I am again, there I am. And that breath, that first breath that goes into the belly, which is where we store a lot of our pain and our trauma and especially for women, our sexual and men, abuses and physical traumas, and then our heart, where our heartbreak and grief and loss. First breath, the belly, second breath, the heart, and then we release it. It's unlocking. I just feel like it unlocks all that stuff that's been bottled and stuck and stuffed for so many years. And until there's a safe container with a beautiful teacher, whoever that is for you and wherever that you are, and there's the music and the pattern is right and flowing, and we get out of our head long enough to get into our heart, that's when the magic happens. And so to me, that's the best and easiest way I can explain it without getting into all the science of what the true, I don't know for sure. And I don't know that even anyone does. I've talked to some of the longest people in the industry, has got breath mastery, what's his name? I've interviewed some of the people that were 40 years in the business, right? And even they say, we don't really know for sure why the biggest releases happen, like what can happen for people on ayahuasca or other plant medicines like mushrooms. But that's my best understanding of it, is that when we finally get out of here and we drop into here, we can unlock and release some of that stuff. The pain, the trauma, the anguish, the hurt. It's kind of what I've come to.
I've had some profound experiences with the breath, and like you said, moving the breath out of just the lung space and down into the womb and the belly.
Yep.
The oxygen is stirring up the density at the bottom of the energy centers, and it's sucking it out like a vacuum. And
that's a great way to describe
it. Blowing it out and coming to terms with that energy and the awareness of that. And you just feel amazing after breath work. Even if you just breathe a few deep breaths into the belly in the womb, in just 100%. Driving, it's just all of your problems seem to go away in this moment. But the tool is not taught at school. We're teaching you this, because we're obviously in this kind of conscious realm. When they're overwhelmed, I'm just take some deep belly breaths, and they just feel amazing. But so many of us aren't using this fuel, which is life force energy, to elevate or just calm the system.
And I think, one last note I'll say too is this particular part of it is kind of studied about how there's a phrase called transient hyperfrontality. It's kind of a big phrase, but what it means is we're turning off our prefrontal cortex with this breath pattern. So transient hyperfrontality is we turn it off long enough for all of our thoughts to stop thinking, all those bullshit lies we tell ourselves, all the self-beat, all the judgments to freeze. And while they're frozen or they're stopped and we're not in them, we can go down below into the belly and start to explore and understand the other stuff in our heart, in our belly, and the womb, like you said. And so that's another thing to bring into it, is that we're turning this thing off just through that particular breath style and breath pattern.
Yeah,
So
I
really
see it
cool.
like Source gave us the tools for elevation, you know, to get out of the third dimension. And, you know, we love talking about dimensions and consciousness and overarching principles of universal truths. And, you know, we'd love to hear your kind of perspective on all of that, like the acceleration when we get to fourth dimension and, you know, we start to make rapid vibration within our system because we have dropped the vibration, the density, the distortions. And so, yeah, I'd love your take on the dimensions. And, you know, we feel like the third dimension is one of the hardest ones to get through. And you're in the trench and you have this awakening and you feel like you're down and up, down and up. And
thank you for that question and that entree into it. And for me, like, I don't really I've just actually started studying, like, there's a fifth dimension too, right? Like the fifth dimension, the fourth dimension. And so how I look at it is like my spiritual awareness, right? And I just think of when I'm there, when I'm elevated, when I'm in that space, to me, it feels like in perfect flow. It feels like I'm like in complete sync with spirit, I believe in God, so I refer to God, but source or universe or whatever you believe in. And when there's a through line from my heart and even through my mind and all the way up to that source, I feel complete, and that's when I'm in the pocket. I'm in the zone, in the flow. But when I'm in all my junk and my funk and my stories and my lies, I am in the third dimension, in the physical space, and that's when we're tripping. But when we can, and we can't always get to that beautiful place, but when we get there, it's magical. And I don't know if you guys study or have followed Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction and all that, but like one thing we're always thinking of is like, how much, the goal I always have is how much can I shorten this gap from when I'm out of sync with me, like when I'm in the third dimension and when I go to that zone place, how much can I shorten the gap of how often I have to fall out of sync? And that's what I care about. Like, I'm never going to get there 100% unless I'm Buddha or Christ or whatever we believe is the highest ascension. But I believe that my mission is to get there as often as I can. And however frequently I can visit that place, magical. But then when I'm not there, I just have to remind myself, well, what are the tools? Well, I got breath, I've got journaling, I've got mindset, I've got movement, I call them affirmations wrapped. So affirmations, journaling, what can I do to pull myself back to center so that I can soar up to that beautiful place? And that's how I look at it. I don't speak really in dimensions, but I know what you mean by it. And I speak more in like, I just want to be in that zone, in that flow place where everything is lined up.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to look at it. And, for yourself and this journey for yourself, right, on this planet as a soul, going from the physical to the mind and the emotions to now people helping to almost heal their relationship with themselves. We're touching on that, how the breath can be a way to help people clear a trauma or a block.
Yeah.
Known and unknown, what I've found for myself is sometimes things that I wasn't even aware of or in me have come like a memory that's in there somewhere. And I'm in the middle of a breath work and I think, oh my goodness, I can remember the time getting bullied on the school bus, right? Because I went to a Christian school, but I went on the state school bus, right? So
oh boy,
I got around, right? This
Aww.
tightness was in my solar plexus, right? Of feeling helpless and alone and weak. And the power of the breath, I could feel all this energy here. And I didn't even know that was in me. And it's I had a release, and it's sort of like I almost beautifully cried out how I had to go through that experience of feeling that and releasing it. And I've got to say, Rebecca, afterwards, I felt so much better. Like it was
For your,
like when the
yeah, for your
breathwork thing
lighter.
was
Yeah.
over, it was like a little
100%.
tiny piece of baggage. It was invisible, was
Yeah.
gone. Have
Yeah.
you had clients talk about results
Oh
like
my
that?
God. All the time. All the time. What we're doing, people always go, it's like 20 years of therapy in one session. We're collapsing the time that normally people might lay on, and no disrespect to therapists, but might lay on a therapist's couch and talk it out and revisit it and go through it and relive it and still be in the same place. Because what we're doing, we're talking, I believe, is spinning, spinning, spinning. We're still up here, not here. That's why, to me, I don't believe talk therapy unless it's a really beautifully trained therapist who incorporates some other modalities besides just voice, because I think that the only way sometimes we can get to the truth of us. I always say, when I'm looking for a pen, I always grab my pen, because I always say too that using writing, the pen never lies. The heart never lies, right? The heart can tell stories, but when we pick up a pen and we use breath to get connected to our heart, and we take some, like in my sessions with clients, because I'm also a life coach now, so I work with clients, and the first thing I say is freeze. When they're in a lie, I'll go freeze, freeze, take a breath, close your eyes and breathe with me for a second. So I get them to get out of here, to drop here, because when we go from there to here, then I say, okay, pick up your pen, don't speak, pick up your pen, write the answer to this question. What's the truth? Tears start falling. This is without even doing, this is because why? We got out of our head in the lie, and we got down here long enough to connect to the truth. Because that is what, there's this beautiful song I listen to called Light of Truth. I forget the artist. You guys would probably love this song. It's about, sometimes we have to be face down at desperation before we finally rise back up, because in the desperate moments is when we find the truth of our spirit, of our soul, in the light of the truth. And so I feel the same thing with why I say, the pen and breath work and, meditation and movement and incantations or affirmations, like I call them, speaking it out, because I like to involve as many senses as I can. So whether it's my nose and the breath and my voice or the vocal cords are getting involved, when you use affirmations, you're speaking it out and you're breathing and you're moving, that's a powerful cocktail right there to shift someone's energy. You have a depressed person, tell them to move, breathe, do some affirmations and be out in sunlight, nature, and shift. You've got all the things on your side to shift the feeling, right? So I know I'm going off on a tangent, but you can tell I'm kind of passionate about this topic.
I love it. I love your enthusiasm, and I really do love rap formations. I'm gonna
Thank you.
rapping to my kids.
Yeah.
It makes it so much more
fun. Remember their schoolwork, but they'll hear a rap song on the radio, and within 2 or 3 minutes, they're like, know all the words. You're like, why don't you know your English that well, or whatever.
It's exactly the philosophy behind it, right? Because with the affirmations, I always felt, it feels fake, saying, I am beautiful, I am brave, and I just felt like it doesn't feel real. So I struggled for many years with it, and I'm like, what if I start singing it and dancing it in my voice, kind of like a rap? And then I started doing that. And once I did that, it changed. And suddenly I was like, wow, I am a money magnet. Money does flow to me and money grows on trees. And I would just sing it and dance it and boom, everything changed. So from there, that's how I got rap formations.
Like fully embodying the principle of the energy and that high frequency and bringing it down into this dimension. I mean, and walking in it. So I think that embodiment and just rather thinking it, we're still really in our head, aren't we? But
100%.
Down into the heart, visualizing it, dancing with it. It's like you have it now.
Vocalizing.
And vocalizing it. I love it.
And I think, and solidifying it by being, if you can, I always suggest to clients who are struggling with like low-grade depression or the blahs or just the funk, please try to get outside and get the fresh air on your body, see sun, I'm looking at my trees, my palm trees out here. So look at trees, get the sunlight on your face, be near water, walk barefoot, do grounding, barefoot in the grass, barefoot on dirt or whatever, or sand, to connect you back to the things that are the truth of you and to the things that really matter, our source, our light, energy. Earth. I can go on forever.
For yourself, I've just had this beautiful realization. For yourself, in reflection, do you find it very fulfilling to be helping people heal their heart, connect to their soul, more than having a six-pack? I mean, having a six-pack, having nice big arms is good. But can you share, like, from a therapist's point of view,
Yeah.
the level of fulfillment from helping them heal their heart and connect to their
Yeah.
spirit? Please.
Yeah. So yeah, as a life coach, just to clarify, I love more than anything seeing someone's eyes light back up, seeing them get that spring back in their step, seeing tears come. To me, my favorite thing on the planet is when tears are flowing of gratitude, of joy, of peace, of relief. And I used to say back in the day when I was doing the training and then I first discovered breath work, I was like, I was also a fitness model and did Gatorade commercials and Ford commercials. So I was always had to be shredded. Like my agent would go, "We have an audition. Are your abs in?" And so if my abs weren't in, I couldn't go. Like it was that kind. It was back in the day when and I was weightlifting a lot, and so I was always shredded, and I had to be. So I had six-pack abs, and I think I thought it was funny because I was always trying to help people get six-pack abs. I had to have six-pack abs, but when I discovered breathwork, I traded all that for now an 8-pack in my heart. So I think of I got an 8-pack and I got 2-pack abs. I don't care. I have 2-packs because I don't care about them anymore. I focus more on my heart. And so when I think of the work I do, I think of it like that. I actually just started a t-shirt line, which one of them was Just Breathe, like these t-shirts that have my sayings on them, and it's called 6-Pack Hearts. And so I believe that really the epitome, because when you have a 6-pack, it means you're at the epitome, the pinnacle of fitness. When your abs are in, you're dieting right, you've got enough water, you're lifting right, you've really, that's the epitome of a great body, right? The abs are all in. Same thing with our hearts. Like when we're on fire and we're aligned and we're in the zone, or what I say, on point, on purpose in life, we could have a 6-pack in our hearts, or an 8-pack is even like the best epitome of it. So that's the goal. It's like, how close can we get to the pinnacle of feeling aligned, being in balance, releasing our traumas and fears, and never having them. We're never going to not have them, right? We're always going to have something. Life will always deliver something for us to work through. But how quickly can we grab a tool, whether it's meditation, breath work, journaling, mindset shifting, rap formations, incantations, and grab it and go, holy shit, this is what I need. Let me heal right now in this moment, and then keep moving and get back to good. That's the goal. Collapsing the time that we stay in the funk and get back to good, right? So when you ask, nothing brings me greater joy than to see people finally reconnect to themselves, whether it's through their tears that I see once they've done breath work with me, or through an aha moment in a coaching session when they're like, holy shit, I never thought of it like that. Oh my God, that's it. And there's a breakthrough. And then they go do that thing they're meant to do on the planet. So yeah, 6-pack abs was great, but 6-pack hearts is way better, for sure.
I love it. It's a great concept. And, there's this overarching idea that when we're in life and we get to the point where we move from being service to self into service to others, like a tipping point in our connection to our fulfillment and 100%. Our level of peace, joy, happiness, which are all very high vibrational states to be in. And when we talk about the law of attraction, when we talk about the ability to learn from lessons through life, that can be all really influenced by a rate of vibration. But the catalyst for this growth is often some sort of drama or pain or discomfort. Perhaps you could share an
You have to go there, don't you?
What's some sort of catalyst that you've had happen in your life into whatever it may be? We've had all sorts of things in this show where people have gone, you know what, for me, and they're like you, they've got a lot of fulfillment, they're helping a lot of other people. And they say it started though when, God bless them, this thing went wrong.
I call it our rock bottom, right? Yeah. So for me, I had 2 big pivotal moments. I would say the first one was when I was 26, and I had come out of I was in foster care as a kid. I was adopted at 12, and so I had a lot of dysfunction in my childhood years. Lived in 12 homes within 12 years, so bouncing, and never had stability. So in my early 20s, I ended up getting addicted to cocaine. And I had a really bad addiction to the point of where I would be up 5 days in a row straight, just getting high, getting trashed. And that was it. That was my life for 6 years straight. And so one night I was at the this was my bottom. And I was walking barefoot. I had been in a fight with someone over drugs, so I had a bloody nose, and I was literally broke. So I always say it's my 3 Bs. I was bloody, barefoot, and broke. And I was walking down the street. It was like 4 a.m, and I just remember saying, if I don't stop right now, I just had this like it was like almost like literally a ghost or God's voice or something hit me right then in that moment and said, you have got to stop. And it hit me. If I don't stop, I'm going to die. Mm-hmm. And so this is how long ago it was. There was payphones. So I walked over to a payphone and I called the man who had adopted me. And I said, Dad, can you please bring me home? And he didn't know. I said, I'm addicted to cocaine and I can't stop. And he said, get to the airport, there'll be a ticket in the morning. And that was the beginning of my journey. And so for me, that was my bottom. And after I got out of the rehab, I was inpatient and got clean. And I had to, I switched my addiction a little bit. I became obsessed with fitness. I started running, I started lifting weights, I changed my diet. I wanted to know everything about the opposite of what I had been doing to my body, which is exactly how I got into this field. And then when I discovered it, and I was like, oh my God, I can get the same high running 8 miles a day or 6 miles a day or 4 miles a day or what? And then I started lifting. I'm like, oh my God, I can get a rush while I'm lifting. I got to teach people that there's a way out. And that is why I got it. Yeah, no hangover. Yeah. And it's not expensive. My drug addiction was expensive.
Totally.
So, yeah, and so when I discovered it, I literally became obsessed about learning everything. And then I landed in fitness about 4 years later, started my career. That was one of my bottoms. I had another one after that got me into breathwork, but I think we'll stop with this first one.
Yeah.
Because I could go on for days.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We all do have that dip, and like you said, that inner child, your soul contract would have been written with all guns blazing before you incarnated. And thank you for coming out of it and showing your soul that growth, that you can get out of the pits and love yourself again and come back together, because there seems to have been a lot of separation in your early childhood, which is sad, but there's so much growth from that, realizing that you are, the illusion of separation is actually an illusion.
100%.
Coming home to the one, the all, the God, the source, and realizing we're all one is powerful. And I feel so lucky to have made it out. I always, and then I just want to tag on to what you were saying. Like, I think of what I went through as a client said to me once, like, I love how you spin gold out of your pain. Right. And so I think that's why, like what you said, like I had to go through that journey. I didn't have enough mess to be able to do what I do. So I got enough mess that I could spin some gold out of that. And that's how I look at it. Like, I never feel, I'm never a victim. I'm never like, oh, poor me. I'm like, lucky me. Because through that, I learned all these really amazing things. I have so much compassion. I understand people. And now I get to do this work in the world. So yeah. And it's like a warrior, like that is to be able to transfer the opposite of what you had into something great and gold is like a true old soul. So it's like, you did it. Woo, you did it, and you didn't give up, and you got through it. And I know how like ups and downs, because we all go through these traumatic things in our life. Like, I mean, that's the expansion and the expression of the soul. And it's beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that story. So
thanks for letting me.
People, because we're having these conversations, people who are right into the diet aspect, and then, or someone else might be right into sound healing. And then you're bringing the breath, and they're like modalities that people can apply in their life that aren't that difficult to apply. Like that point you made about you want to go do a plant medicine journey, that it's like a big logistical issue. That's a really good point. It's like
it is.
Get someone to put aside time, and you got to get on a plane and But everyone can breathe. Yeah. We can find time to breathe. We can find time to do that physical activity, ground into the earth, right?
That's right.
Journal.
And I love that. And that's why I think of it like, we're like wearing a tool belt. I always think of like it's a tool belt around my waist full of these wellness tools. And I get to decide Once I learn them, first we have to learn them, but I get to decide when I'm going in a funky direction or if I'm feeling off, which tool do I pull out today? Is it the meditation? Is it the pen? Is it the breath? Is it the yoga mat? Is it, right? But we have to equip ourselves with these tools. And it's up to us, I believe, as humans and spiritual beings in this journey, inhabiting this physical body, to learn those tools. I think we're responsible to this body, to the spirit, to the soul, to this life we've been given, to learn them, but then also to use them. And not be a victim and not blame and not make excuses for where we're at. I mean, I could have given up so many fucking times and I shouldn't even be here, but I wouldn't quit. I didn't want to quit. And I think part of, we've gotten into this, I think people love to be in the victim mode. I hate to say this, but I think as I hear people share with me in the DMs on my account and people I jump on calls with, it feels sometimes that people are just stuck in the victim and they want to spin in what's happened to them instead of how they could rise up from it and be the boss of their happy, right? Like that's one of my taglines is like, I believe we're all the boss of our happy, but we have to become that and we have to be responsible to that. And then we get to decide what happy looks like for us, but we might have to use some tools to get there.
Love it.
So when you would have inspired a lot of people in this chat today. What are you excited about at the moment in terms of working with people? For people who are like, I just resonate with this woman, this message. How can they find you? What are you doing at the moment with groups, with individuals? Let's share that.
Thank you. So I've got a couple different ways people could find me or work with me. Obviously, my social media, which I guess will be linked or whatever. You can find me there, follow me, but I've got a couple cool things. One, this new t-shirt like that I'm wearing, but I've got a whole line of them. Like 5 different slogans that I say, like got God, God vibes only, faith over fear. And so I have those t-shirts that are available on my bio in my account. But the other way that people can actually work with me is one-to-one coaching. I call it SOAR coaching, and SOAR is an acronym for my work. So that would be one-to-one life coaching. And then the other cool thing, if someone's hearing us talk about breathwork and they're like, I really want to do that work in the world. I've done it. It's magical. How could I teach it? I have a certification. So I teach breathwork teachers, how people want to be a teacher, how to do it. And so it's a do-it-yourself course. You can go to I can give you the link. You go to the site, download it, and start learning today.
Amazing.
So that's the other way. And that's through my company called the Breath Zone. So
wonderful. We'll get the links from you. Thank you so much for coming on our show. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, it's so nice to connect to you. You're bright, shiny. You're doing great work. Thank you for your service. Yeah.
Thank you both for having me. Love you. And I love Aussies, by the way. I have so many clients, one-to-one clients in Australia, and I love your energy. I have to say, like something, I don't know what goes on over in that country, but everybody I meet from there, fucking love you guys. So thank you for having me. No, and you guys are bright too. Thank you so much.
That's beautiful.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.